Welcome everyone. So we will be discussing Indian contribution to science. This is a book which is compiled by Vigyan Bharati, and this is one of the chapters which is there for the VVM examination.
Chapter 14, Indigenous Agriculture, Biotechnology and Nanotechnology. Agriculture. India is an agrarian country. This statement today remains as true as it was 69 years ago, in spite of agriculture not making up the largest part of our country. As our economy stands now, the major growth and portion of the national income comes from the service sector, but the largest part of our working population is engaged in agriculture and related activities. Most Indians still make their livelihoods from the country's farmland. There are two aspects to what makes the agriculture sector important to our country. One is the need of feed our ever growing population without depending on food imports. The other is about the basic strength of any economy. While short term growth spurts can be achieved by economic activities based on value addition, like the service sector, for the long term health of an economy and for its to have strong basics, primary sectors that generate products such as agriculture need to be strong. After independence, our agricultural sector was suffering from many ills, including lack of irrigation facilities, inequitable distribution of lands, and almost zero use of technology to improve production. As such, at that point too, we were heavily dependent on the important grains to feed our population. In 1960s, the situation was not unique to India. Several third world countries have got their independence and they were struggling to feed their population. At this point of time, the introduction of green revolution is supposed to have saved the lives of one third of the world's population. The man who is credited with it is Dr. Norman Barlow. In 1963, he introduced high yielding varieties of wheat in India. That was the turning point of our agriculture, and we have been moving ahead from there. Several measures were introduced to improve agriculture productions along with the use of high yielding crop varieties. In this task, the group of indigenous scientists led by Dr. M.S. Swaminathan played a major role. The other steps taken include development of irrigation facilities, more widespread use of chemical fertilizers, pesticides, insecticides, land reforms, and consolidation of land holdings under Chakabandi, use of mechanized instruments in land tilling, harvest and post harvest function, easier and smoother availability of agricultural loans, and rural electrification to facilitate running of farm machineries. Simultaneously, the government also invested in opening agriculture universities and research laboratories to develop indigenous technologies. This led to developing wheat and paddy crop varieties that are typically suited to our climate and vagaries of monsoons, flooding, or droughts, are pest resistant, and have better yield, thereby lowering the risk of farmers. Unfortunately, for long after green revelations, there were very few changes made in the approach to the agriculture, and as a result production suffered. This occurred in spite of high yield crops we talked about previously. We have realized it is that over the last couple of decades, the total land area under the production has decreased. Our population has kept increasing as ever. Our agricultural production have been forced to cope with the growing demand. Unfortunately, this has caused long and indiscriminate use of chemical in our farms. Farmers no longer depend on any natural manures or crop rotation to vitalize their fields. Long use of synthetic chemicals lead to fields reaching their maximum capacity of production while the weeds, pests, and insects grow resistant. Now is the ideal time for a second green revolution. For the past decade, agricultural scientific scientists have been focusing on finding organic alternatives of to the chemical fertilizers and insecticides, and there have been some considerable success. Irrigation facilities have also been improved, and people are growing more conscious on maintaining a suitable underground water table. The plants where are to make our fields less dependent to monsoon, thus eliminating the higher variable factor from the production. Initiatives are concentrating on completing rural electrification and dependable power supply and recycling groundwater through techniques like rainwater harvesting. By consulting agricultural scientists, farmers are able to better determine the specifics of when to use and what kind of chemical aids, the precise quantum to be used precisely, and what organic supplements to use so that they can give better yields without overstressing the land. This has decreased the indiscriminate use of chemicals in our farms and hence contamination of the neighborhood areas and water resources too. There is growing trend of soil testing and fields evaluations of local conditions, which has enabled the researchers to provide better suggestions to the farmers. This has made the process of farming much more scientific and has also reduced the expense of the farmers, as now they have been use specific amounts of fertilizers or pesticides. Biotechnology and nanotechnology. There has been considerable hope put on biotechnology and nanotechnology. Biotechnology deals with applications of living organisms to improve human initiatives. When we talk of biotechnology in India, we tend to talk primarily of its use in the health and agricultural sectors. In medicines, it would mean better and cheaper medicines, new therapies to ideal and age old adversities like cancer, vaccinations, and diagnostics. In agriculture, the expectations are in terms of developing higher yielding seeds by manipulating the very genes of plants, biopesticides, and biofertilizers. The food preservations and processing. Food preservation is essential as we still lose almost 30% of our food grain production a year due to poor storage facilities. Nanotechnology, on the other hand, is a relatively unexplored area with only government funded research so far, but hopes associated with it are great. Nanotechnology is a technology of very small scales, 1,000 times smaller than the thickness of the human hair. At such scales, though the basic nature of the matter remains the same, a lot of structural flaws can be removed, making things stronger, catalysts more efficient, and medicines working faster. The current goal is to direct nanotechnology research to enhance agriculture productivity by helping genetic improvements, treatment of polluted water resources, and making crops more resistant to pest or insect attacks. In future, we would have nanotech particles based insecticides where we would need to spray just a small quantity of it over the entire hectare. There are several hurdles to be overcome because these goals can be achieved, especially assessments of long-term use of nanotechnology and biotechnology on human health. Today, India seems to be on the right track and the future looks promising. Thank you.